It's the Ross Tucker Football Podcast.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. I never do that, ever. Every day we have a show, I bring it for you, all 30 minutes, the energy, the enthusiasm. I mean, if you're going to give me 30 minutes of your listening time, I'm going to give you everything I've got. It's a Wisdom Wednesday, although we're recording crazy early because Brian has to travel after producing the New York Rangers opening night hockey game last night. So no guests. You know who the guests are? You guys are the guests. It's why it's vitally important that you follow at Ross Tucker Pod on Twitter, because we DM'd some of you and we're going to DM more of you to just say, listen, we need DM questions. Every once in a while, we're going to do a Mailbag Wednesday if we have to record this early. And I love it because I absolutely love your questions and answering your questions. You guys come up with better content, quite frankly, than Brian and I ever could. And it seems like you guys like when I answer questions sometimes, as opposed to always having a guest on a Wednesday. The other thing about following at Ross Tucker Pod is you can very easily be the spread the word winner via social media, which is amazing. You get a signed picture from me or a signed football card, or if you want, you get an awesome signed press pass that, I don't know, how many people do you know that has one of these? If you're watching on YouTube, it's youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. I've got so many cool things. I got the Ravens Bengals the other night, Western Michigan, Army. I have my Hall of Fame one. So if you're into like Tony Baselli or Cliff Branch or any of these guys, Leroy Butler, Sam Mills, Richard Seymour, that'd be a cool one. Titans Bills for the Bills fans out there, Eastern Michigan. I've got Dolphins training camp, Eagles Browns preseason, Eagles. I mean, Louisville. How about the wild card game on Field Pass from the Rams Cardinals? I still have a bunch from last year. I got on field from Bucks Rams. So cool. Anyway, I love giving them out. I hope you guys try to win. I even have some cool Penn State ones from the blue-white game and going to one of their practices. Highly, highly encourage you guys to quote tweet at Ross Tucker Pod, any of the tweets, and either make a comment or just say how much you enjoy the show. Whatever you want, that's what we're looking for. That way we can we can retweet it, which is good for you, but really good for us. Other people see how much you enjoy the show. And then also, you can get a chance to win, be the spread the word winner, which is amazing. Sponsor confirmation email winner will be announced Friday morning. As always, so many good sponsors. Big fan of AG1, getting my veggies. Masterworks is very interesting. You know, it lets you get in on an investment that we normally wouldn't be able to. Symbol, I think, is amazing. I'm mad I didn't come up with that myself. Uncommon Goods, Sling TV. Anyway, there's a lot of them. And then the YouTube shout out, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. All you have to do is subscribe, hit the thumbs up, and then reply to any comment. And you get a great chance of getting like a video shout out that I post on YouTube and email you the link. And you can send it to any of your buddies or your wife or whatever you want. Speaking of shout outs, Doug D'Olimpio is today's patron of the day. We are still getting patrons every day. And they're all coming in at the Tuckheads level because they want to be a part of this growing community on our private Slack channel. And probably because they want the even money bets in black and white from grades as well. That's fine. Friday picks, press box food grades, power rankings. All you have to do is patreon.com/RT Media. Best $9.99 a month you will ever spend. It's big show time.
The Big Show.
Morning, Ross. I know we talked yesterday that you said you were going to have more thoughts on Matt Rhule's firing and Ron Rivera's quarterback comment.
I think, Bri, well, first of all, how was last night, Bri?
Oh, last night was amazing. Hockey in New York, the New York Rangers. It's always fun, and to see it on opening night. It's special.
I think hockey might be my favorite. It's up there among my favorite in-person sports to watch. I don't know why TV doesn't seem to do it justice. You can't tell they're moving as fast on TV as you can if you're actually at the rink. We go to Hershey Bears games, and I absolutely love I love those guys are tough as nails. They're flying around. I don't even know that much about hockey, and I thoroughly enjoy it.
Absolutely. No, these and I think for someone who doesn't know the game, and I'm not an expert by any means, but to watch that in person, I brought my kids last year to a couple of games, and they're just blown away. Like watching that in person is special.
Because they don't have anything like that in New Orleans. They don't have anything in Louisiana. Or they probably have minor league, don't they?
They had a minor league team in Baton Rouge about 20 years ago, and there's actually talk about bringing it back, but nothing in New Orleans, nothing near me. So now this is their first go of seeing it in person. It's fun. It's a lot of fun to watch it in person.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad you get to do those games now. I'm glad we also probably waited a day because Ron Rivera basically came out and said, it's my fault. I didn't totally explain what I meant to say, which, I mean, thank goodness, Ron. He's been around a long time. He's been a coach in this league a long time. I like him a lot personally as a man. He grew up in a military family, and he knows better than that. You can't just say quarterback like that. I have no idea what he was thinking. Now, he tried to put the toothpaste back in the tube a little bit and say that he meant the quarterbacks are further along in these other organizations. Well, Ron, Daniel Jones is in a new offense. So there's really no difference between Daniel Jones in Brian Dable and Mike Kafka's offense and Carson Wentz in Scott Turner's offense. And Cooper Rush, they've won 4 in a row with Cooper Rush in Dallas. So, gosh, it's funny because I feel like I could say a lot about this. Let's start with the fact that it's just incorrect. It's just wrong. If you watch Washington, Wentz has had some bad moments for sure, including, the interception against the Titans on Sunday and a bunch of moments against the Eagles and whatever. But I don't think he's playing all that worse than Cooper Rush and Daniel Jones. They're just not playing as well around him. And so more of the load is on Carson Wentz. They don't run the ball that well. They don't play very good defense. So it's just incorrect. It's incorrect in the sense that they've had more time to develop with their teams. Not really. I mean, Cooper Rush has only started 5 games his whole career. And Daniel Jones, as mentioned, is in a new offense. And Jalen Hurts is only in his second year in the new system. It's not like he's been around forever. And the other parts of those teams are better all the way around. So it's not correct from that standpoint. Then I'm not sure I totally believe that that's what he meant. He says afterwards that he meant, and he talked to Carson one-on-one and he talked to the team and he meant within their development within the team. I'm not sure I totally believe that. I think that that's on some level trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube. But even if that is the case, even if that is what he meant, it's still terrible. When you're a head coach, we talk about team, right? Like we're constantly talking about team. You don't single out one guy. We're all in this together. We all need to be rowing in the same direction. These are the things coaches say constantly because they don't want players to be selfish. They want players to be unselfish and team-oriented. Then when someone asks him that question, he's going to say quarterback. So it's a terrible thing to say, and especially the way he said it, to just say quarterback like that. But then even if he had better verbalized what he says his point was now, it's still bad. It's still a bad point by Ron Rivera. It's still not the right way to go about it at all. And it's like looking for a scapegoat, looking for an excuse, which is not what Ron Rivera is supposed to be about. The answer should have been, we're not winning close games. And that falls on me. Because they've been in a bunch of these games late that they could have won, and they haven't found a way to win those games. That would have been an acceptable answer, and say that falls on me. We got to get a little bit better in every area. So it's just very disappointing that a coach with his experience would do that. Very disappointing. Speaking of disappointing, every time I eat vegetables, I'm pretty disappointed, which is why I love AG1. Love me some AG1. I started taking it. I'll be honest with you, I started taking it because they started to advertise. And so I was like, okay, I'll try it. Awesome. Awesome. Then it felt like everybody I talked to was like, oh, yeah, I take that. My buddy BJ, Andrew Brandt, like everybody. Oh, yeah, I take AG1. I take AG1. 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens. I don't even know what adaptogens are, but they taste delicious. And it costs you less than $3 a day. There's a reason why they have thousands of 5-star reviews. It helps your immune system, which is big for me this time of year. Big. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/Ross. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/Ross to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, so now let's talk, okay, about Matt Rhule being fired. Let's go a little bit deeper on that. Number one, I used to think, what's the point of firing a guy in season? I no longer feel that way because I do think it's sort of a cleansing and a turning of the page for an organization. And it gives them a chance to begin their search for the next guy almost immediately and not to have to do it in a clandestine fashion, right? Not to have to do it behind the scenes. They can be out in the open with considering candidates, meeting with candidates, whatever. So I feel like that. I also think you're always going to have NFL teams that will hire the hot college guy, especially if he spent some time in the NFL like Matt Rhule did. Because they're going to say, wow, look what he did there. Look what he did there. This guy's a heck of a football coach. The track record for college head coaches coming to the NFL is not good. Frankly, it makes what a guy like Jimmy Johnson did with the Cowboys and the Miami Hurricanes even more impressive. It really does. The other thing is, if you're a college guy, you're also, by the way, you're always going to have college guys that are willing to come to the NFL. You know why? It's like a free swing. It's like a free bite of the apple. Because if you come to the NFL and you don't have success, it's not a knock on your college record. Matt Rhule can go back to college and he'll probably have his pick of a number of jobs if he wants it. Now, I always think it's interesting. Do you go right back in right now? I think I mentioned this on Twitter at Ross Tucker NFL. He's scheduled to make close to $42 million more over the next 4 years and 3/4, 4.5, whatever, because he signed a 7-year, $62 million deal. Think about that. He does not have to work. And I know people like Andrew Brandt point this out. If he gets a college job and they pay him $8 million a year or whatever, then that offsets what he's getting from the Panthers. Now, Belichick or people like that would often hire him for like $1 so that it's still the Panthers paying him, but he gets to coach up in New England or whatever. I know the way these guys are wired. I know that they're all in on coaching and they love it and they can't do anything else. I get all that. Boy, I would at least take the rest of this year off, and I would strongly consider taking next year off like Doug Peterson did. Especially Matt Rhule, he's got young kids. He's got young children. What an unbelievable opportunity to spend a year of your life with these young children, your kids that you'll never get back. Never. If he asked me, and he won't, I know Matt have a cell phone. I wouldn't say we're friends, but I know if he asked me, I would say, take the year off. You'll still be a hot commodity. You'll still be able to get a good college job, and you will be glad for the rest of your life that you did that you had that year as a dad, year with your family. Because it'll only be a year, right? It'll be a year from right now because some college will hire him next November or whatever. It's not like it's a full year more. So that would be my recommendation. I don't know if he takes it or not. I think a couple things. Matt Rhule can't really complain about being fired because he had total control. He was basically the GM. They had a GM, but he was basically in charge. So if you're that guy, you can't really complain, right? I mean, you sort of had the opportunity to do whatever you wanted to do and weren't able to get it done. I also think you will see some college coaches. College coaches will always try the NFL, A, because their ego, and B, it's a free bite at the apple. If they do bad in the NFL, they can still come back to college. But I also think you'll see more and more college coaches not leave unless there's a quarterback there or a clear path to a quarterback. I think that's the reality too. They're going to say, you know what? I'm not doing it unless I have a top 20 quarterback. Because he tried a bunch of different options. None of them worked. And more than anything else, that's really why he's being fired, right? He could not find the right quarterback. So ultimately, he'll get a college job. I hope he sits out a year. But it's totally up to him. He had control, unlike some of these other guys. You know what I think is cool too? What we see guys like Tom Brady and LeBron do to come from where they did. And now LeBron has a net worth of $1 billion. $1 billion. It's not even about basketball. It's all the other commercials, and he's an awesome entrepreneur making crazy moves off the court that have really paid off for him. There used to be these markets that you could only get in if you were basically someone like LeBron. Now it's different. You need to check out Masterworks. They have 500,000 people on their platform. I think they even have a wait list. But our listeners, since they advertise on the show now, can get priority access. You can skip it just by going to masterworks.com and use promo code Ross. That's masterworks.com, promo code Ross, to learn more about how to get in on an investment that you normally would not be able to do. See important Regulation A disclosures at masterworks.com/CD.
Tuck's Takes.
All right, before we get to the Mailbag Wednesday, a few items to discuss, and we'll start with the Browns swapping late round 2024 picks with the Falcons to acquire linebacker Deion Jones.
So the Falcons were just looking to get rid of his contract. I mean, they really just wanted to get his contract off the books moving forward because all they did was move up from the 7th round to the 6th round in 2024. So this is a salary cap move by the Falcons. This is cleaning up some cap room for moving forward. As for the Browns, their defense isn't good enough. In particular, their run defense has really struggled. But their defense in general, Deion Jones, you get him in there with JOK, and now you've got a couple linebackers that are run and hit guys that can hopefully help them be better, especially against the run, which is a good thing to do with the Patriots coming to town.
Tuck's Takes.
Speaking of the Browns, Deshaun Watson allowed back in the Browns facility.
It's interesting. I don't even know all the rules, but he's allowed in the facility, but still can't practice. I think he can practice, though, 2 or 3 weeks maybe before the suspension's up. They have a totally different protocol and policy now for these guys that are suspended to get them acclimated back to the team, which is interesting. I think you could make an argument either way. Like, wait a minute, they're suspended, but they're still not playing in the game. But this helps him very much to be in the mix with his nutrition and working out and stuff and throwing the football. And then he'll be able to practice. It gives him a much better chance of being able to play right away when his suspension's over.
Tuck's Takes.
And finally, Ravens safety Marcus Williams goes on IR after dislocating his wrist.
It's a big loss. Big loss. I mean, they paid a lot of money for him this offseason for a reason, because they highly value the safety position, and because I don't think they knew or realized they'd be able to get Kyle Hamilton in the draft like they did, but he's still not ready. Kyle Hamilton has been a little bit of a disappointment so far as a safety for the Ravens. He's still not quite ready to roll. So that's a big loss, but this is why it's a good thing they got Kyle Hamilton, because if Marcus Williams goes down, this is why you shouldn't be so picky, and the Ravens aren't, about what positions you pick in the draft. You got to make sure that you just get the best player and that you're covered and ready to go. Let's get to some, I'd say emails, Bri, but it's some Twitter DMs to @RossTuckerPod.
Ever wanted to ask an NFL player a question? Well, here's your chance. It's time to Ask Ross.
So you can obviously always email me, ross@rosstucker.com, which I love. And if you take advantage of any of the sponsors, Uncommon Goods, Symbol, whatever, just take advantage of the code, send it to me, and then put your email question at the top, and you automatically go to the front of the line and you get your email answered very, very early. And you have a chance to be the sponsor confirmation email winner and get something signed from me. Ross@rosstucker.com. Although today we're going to look at some of the DMs that people sent to @RossTuckerPod. What do you have, Bri?
First one from Mark, who is at Winnipeg Walsh. Colts O-line has been terrible this year, Ross, yet it's the most expensive O-line in the league. Is there a chance that they can turn it around? And did you ever play on a team where the O-line went from bad to good, and what brought about the change?
It's a good question, Mark. Really good question. There is a chance they can turn it around. I saw where they signed yesterday Ty Nsekhe, who I always thought was a pretty good player, and I think is clearly going to be a better option than Matt Pryor or Bernhard Raymond, the rookie from Central Michigan. I think they just came into the year with a really bad plan. I mean, a really bad plan to think that Pryor could be their left tackle, Pryor or Bernhard Raymond, or that Danny Pinner could be their right guard. They went into the season with two big-time unknowns. And when something's unknown, it might end up being okay, but it might not. And for them, it's not. Plus, I got to be honest with you, Ryan Kelly at center has not been great. Braden Smith at both tackle and right guard have not been great. They paid way too much money for Ryan Kelly and Braden Smith for those two guys to not be playing better. way too much money. They'll probably continue to tinker with the group up front, which I don't know that that's the best way to have success. I think I don't know that I would say we were a bad offensive line, but I think one year in Buffalo, we weren't great. To be frank, they put me at left guard, and I think that helped because of my mindset and my football intelligence. And we just kind of got better playing with each other over the course of the year. And I think the offensive coaches kind of figured out what we were and who we were. So that's a good question. And Game Time is a great app. Now, listen, Friday night's game is already more expensive. You were able to get in yesterday when I looked on the Game Time app, Braves at Phillies. How about my Phillies, by the way? 3 playoff wins in a row. They're up. I mean, they might even be able to clinch in that Game 3 Friday night or Friday afternoon. It's $253 now on the Game Time app. Gosh, I wish I could go to that. I mean, that is – it's been 11 years since they had a home playoff game. Sunday night, I'll be doing Eagles pregame. You can get in the Cowboys at Eagles, $213. Here's the key to me. You can go to an NBA game tonight, Hornets at Sixers, $3. $3. Or Devils Flyers tomorrow night, $41. And if you download the Game Time app, create an account, and redeem code Ross, you get $20 off your first purchase. Again, that is Ross for $20 off your first purchase. And they got concerts, shows. It's not just sports. Terms apply. Download Game Time. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Let's get to another one, Bri.
All right, Russell Bowman has a follow-up question about Matt Rhule and the Panthers. Ross, were you ever on a team that had fired its coach mid-season? And if so, what was the building like in the first few days afterward?
No, Russell, I was not. And what's interesting is that wasn't as common when I was playing as it is now, although I don't know. Nowadays, sometimes they don't fire that guy because they don't want the interim guy to do really well and there'd be a push for him to get the job. So I don't know that I can even say that, to be honest with you, that they do it more now. I know this. I'm a believer in it because when it's imminent that the coach is going to get fired, like it was for me with Dave Campo in Dallas, although that was just going into the last game, really, or Greg Williams in Buffalo, it just becomes an uncomfortable environment. It's tough to see the coaches in the hallways because they kind of know. I think it almost would be better if you move on and you allow everyone to just realize you don't have that hanging over your head anymore. You know what's happening. You know you're getting a new coach, and the assistant coaches know that they're going to be moving on. There's no longer like a cloud. I feel like there's more like, okay, it happened. Now we move on. You can't really move on until you make that move. Good question. I like your guys' questions because I wouldn't have thought about that. What it's like in the hallway when you have an interim coach like that, or you fire your coach. Shout outs, by the way, Fantasy Feast, because of Brian's traveling back from New York after the hockey game. Fantasy Feast will be tomorrow. So we're going to record them both with Joe Dolan tomorrow. Shout outs to Pizza Boy Brewing, Sporticulture, HumanHeadNYC.com. You should have stopped there, Bri. SteakhouseSports.com, Go-Bengals.com, Evergreen Economics, Vision Comics with an X, BackOfficeScheduler.com, and simply the greatest gift you can and should get a loved one in your life for any reason, a story all about them from MyFrontPageStory.com. I think we're done here.
Thanks for listening to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also subscribe to the Fantasy Feast, Even Money, Business of Sports, and College Draft. All available at Apple Podcasts, RossTucker.com, or wherever podcasts can be found.